Hello, everybody. Um, my name is Reyes. I'm a front-end engineer based from Vienna, and I'm going to talk to you about leveraging code splitting in React apps. So that's my Twitter handle. It's Reyes without the vowels. And what is code splitting, actually? There's a nice sentence from the Webpack documentation which says, it allows you to split code into various bundles, which can you then load in demand. And when you don't use code splitting, you load like this giant bundle through the wire into your browser, and you end up like having code. You load code that you actually don't need in your application. And one way to start off with like code splitting is to split your modules into a vendor, the vendor chunk that never changes. For example, some packages from your node modules. So you get the benefit of like long-term caching, and you can do that with the Webpack common chunks plugin to achieve this code splitting. And if you want to code split asynchronously, you can split further down and do it differently. And you basically split your application code down to several other pieces of code. For example, if you want to visit your feed page, you can you actually load the parts that you need for the feed page asynchronously, and this would handle the Webpack for you. This means it adds another script tag into your HTML3. The same thing if you want to visit your profile page, for example. If you split on route level, you actually load the exact code that you actually needed. Same thing for forward 404. And the question is, why do we want code split? And we actually aim to reduce the time of showing this spinner. We actually don't want to see this. And when you visit the website, it feels like this. Especially when you're on a mobile phone, you're like, oh, come on, you're loading or not, and sometimes it's horrible. And what we actually aim to do is like we want to load code as needed. And we are engineers. We are privileged, and we have fiber power internet connection. And outside, more and more users tend to use the internet over the smartphones. And especially on the emerging markets with low 3G, we'll thank you if you code split and optimize your code over to load over the wire. So how can you achieve code splitting? There's this thing is called dynamic import. Dynamic import is a function-like syntactic form to load modules asynchronously. This means import returns a promise of your module. It's currently a TC39 proposal on stage 3. And if you want to use this now, you can use it with Babel, with the syntax dynamic plugin. And actually, if you use Webpack version 2 supports the same syntax. So this means instead of import my module from the path to my module, you would call import like a function and pass the path to the module. Then as a result, you get your module actually. So how would you do that in React? So you could do a React that looks like this. You create a React component that loads an asynchronous component. So you pass in a function that returns this return value of the dynamic import. So in your code base, in the component, you would add a state like the async component. And in the component did mount lifecycle hook, you would call the component prop that returns the promise, and then you set the state to this component. And in the render function, you can say if the async component is there, you want to render this, and if not, you want to render something else. For example, like a loading spinner or nothing. And if you want to try it out, yesterday, Create React App just released a huge update that now supports dynamic imports. So if you want to play with it, there is a nice opportunity to try that out. So please check out Create React App, and yeah. So how would you start to use code splitting? What's nice, or how would you approach to do that? First, I would evaluate which models wouldn't change that often. This is, most of the case, this is the node modules, or most of the node modules that is shared across all of your application. This is the things that you would put into your vendors. So it's the common chunks in your whole application. You get the benefit, again, for the long-term caching for that. And it's always a good idea to split at the route level. So you load your code at your current route that you would need, and if you want to split it further down, you can do it on component level. It's good, for example, if you have like modals, or you have separate views in your tabs in your view, and also be aware we have shared modules that can be complex if you want to do that. With shared modules, I mean if you have like modules that is shared for specific views. So be aware, and yeah, it can be complex. And also, don't over-engineer. If you wouldn't need to split code if you could instead like write less code or use smaller libraries, and you wouldn't even need to load your app faster. So to recap, code splitting can load your code as needed. Asynchronous code splitting will load your code on demand and add script tags to your HTML. This will handle Webpack for you. And avoid shared modules. Only do it only do it if you have complete vision of your components. And try out Create React App if you want to play with it. And yeah, double checking where code splitting makes sense, and don't over-engineer. If you want to talk more about code splitting, just come talk to me. Thank you.